Hello, everybody. How you doing today? We are super excited to be talking about a 2025 new release, a new baseball movie that Rob and I are really excited about. It's directed by Carson Lund, co-written by him, and it is called EEPHUS. And Rob, what what would you describe EEPHUS as being to say like a person who hasn't seen it or hasn't heard of it, but is a baseball fan or a fan of baseball movies?
I would describe it as your next favorite movie.
It's a big
Dessert seating
claim.
starts right now. Before we even get into anything, because I know I will forget personally. Like, I'm glad you mentioned Carson Lund, the director, right away.
Yeah.
Nate Fisher and Michael Basta as the co-writers. The film is called EEPHUS, EEPHUS. It is available right now on digital for like fairly cheap in terms of rental. Before
Mhm.
we even dig into it, because Adam and I can talk about baseball for hours, so I just want to make sure that we like say right off the bat it's a new movie. It's an indie movie. We wholeheartedly support it. We want you to rent it. Even if you don't like baseball, I feel like there's enough in here to really to sell it. But if you do even like a little bit like baseball, it's
Yeah.
probably going to be on your list before the end of the year. I really, really think any baseball lover of any stripe will love this movie.
Yeah, there's a certain romanticism to a baseball fan,
Yeah.
and it kind of lends itself to baseball movies with a certain kind of dramatic poetry where baseball is sort of symbolizes life in many ways. And EFUS very much plays into that. I was reading that Carson Lund had the inspiration of the movie Goodbye Dragon Inn as an influence on EFUS. And in hindsight, I can totally see that. Goodbye Dragon Inn is about like the last operating day of a Taiwanese movie theater, and it's categorized as slow cinema because it's basically just static shots,
Mm.
and you just see time transpire for, like a 5 minutes on like one shot. And it's really just about like putting yourself in that time and place more so than plot.
Right.
Um, and EFIS, I think, is sort of there's a line in Moneyball
Mm.
where they say eventually we're all told that we have to stop playing the kids game.
Yeah.
And this is sort of like if The Sandlot was the first movie,
Right.
EFIS is the last
The last
movie.
one. And that's a cool way
It's
to think
like
about it. Yeah.
if this field doesn't exist, like these guys would use it as an excuse to stop playing baseball. Like that's one thing I kind of like about the movie is that not all of the characters are holding on to this. A
Mhm.
lot of them are just ready to be done with
Ready to
this.
be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should say real quick before we even like dig any more into it, but EFUS is essentially 9 innings of baseball played at a little rec league field in the early 90s that's due to be
Yeah.
demolished. There's no plot really to the movie aside from 27 outs. I mean that's basically it. And
Hmm.
it's playing a game of baseball. Like Adam and I would both play baseball as kids. I we love baseball as adults. I coaching my son's little league team for the last couple years. I mean, this is what it is like, when you're out there on the field and out there in the dugout. And I alluded this to my little capsule review I did a couple weeks back, but like what I love about baseball movies is the way they romanticize the game. And this movie does that, but in a way that is completely opposite of what most movies do. You know what I mean? It's not about a
Yeah.
perfect game or like, Moneyball, as you mentioned, where it's about putting this team together. It's just about like the love of just physically just being in the game. Like sitting in the dugout and bullshitting, standing out in left field and like kind of being bored, like the catcher and his bad knees and just the conversations and the little arguments about balls and strikes and like the little minutia of the game. So that it's an incredibly romantic depiction of baseball, but not in the big cinema way that we see in like the natural and movies like that. Even though I like those movies a lot, it's just so different.
Yeah, and it kind of has like almost like a God's eye point of view where
Mhm.
it's like just as interested in the people who wander into watching the game for an inning or two
Yeah.
as it is the players. There's like a family that goes to visit one of the players, and they're like not really into watching the game. So at one point, like they have to leave and stuff, and the guy is just like kind of sad that they left early. And then another guy says, "Well, at least your family like came
Yeah.
to a game," and like it's just so interesting. And then there's just like so many rando people who
Mhm.
live in this town who just like will sit there, and then there's the guy who's the scorekeeper and he's
Oh,
into it like for every
we
little
have.
bit of it, and he becomes the umpire when the umpires have to leave. And then there's on that counterpoint, there's like the guy sitting on the bleachers who's just like, I don't care if it's a tie, I want to go home and sleep.
Again, there's no real plot, but like we just there's so many things again about the movie that feel authentic. The my not to jump too far, but like the thing, as if I wasn't already sold on the movie, the thing that hammered home to me that it was going to be one of my favorite movies of the year, was the way that as the game goes into dusk, as it gets starts to get darker, there's a moment that I think anybody who's ever played baseball ever has experienced, which is it's starting to get dark, they can't see, somebody hits a pop up in the infield, and it goes up and it just vanishes, and
Yeah.
everyone's looking and no one hears it fall, but it's too dark to see where it might have fallen. And like I just feel like anybody who as a kid or even as an adult was like playing baseball out a little bit too late and it was starting to get dark, that's when you knew that it was time to go home because you couldn't see the ball anymore.
I also like that you only realize the big moments
Mhm.
and like after the movie's over. Like this isn't the type of movie where it's bottom of the ninth, bases
Right.
loaded, and like it's, everybody's on the edge of their seat about who's going to win this last rec game. Like the big highlight is somebody hits a home run like in the midpoint of the
Like,
game,
yeah, in the middle of the fifth inning or something
in the
like
middle of the fifth inning, and it's given like sort of a like the natural treatment and stuff like that. But yeah, by the end of the game, it's almost like an afterthought, and like a lot of them are just, and I love that they take so long where it's just kind of this slow, like kind of like indifference
that. Hmm.
going home, and then like one guy's just like, "Hey, should we get together during the off season?" It's like it never occurred to
Yeah.
them to do this, and like they probably won't because
No,
it's just like this was the thing keeping
because they
them
don't have
together.
baseball. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And then there's certain guys who are just pissy the whole time, and you wonder if it's because it's their way of dealing with that this is the last time that they're ever
Right.
going to play, and they just don't know how to properly emote that.
Hmm.
There's guys who are talented. There's guys who are like grossly out of shape and not
Hmm.
talented. There's guys who are funny and quick and quippy. There's guys who think they're funny, quip and quickie or quick and quippy, but are like complete morons, and every joke lands like a thud. I love like that everybody's different. That because especially with a writer director, it might be all just one voice,
One
and
voice.
like all these guys are different.
Yes. Like the two teams have this sort of long seething animosity that's never bad, but there's a little debate between the two managers about who's supposed to bring the bucket of balls, and like there's little standoffish moments
Yeah.
there, and like just again little conversations in the dugout. I love the one guy who shows up late, the catcher on the blue team who shows up like halfway through the first inning and just runs and takes his at bat and just
Yeah. They're like,
all
do you need to warm up? And then
yeah,
he's
he's like,
like,
no,
no, no,
I
I'm
feel like
fine. And then he just eats shit
but
running to
but
first
again, like
base.
anybody who grew up playing baseball or like me, like watching my parents play like beer league softball, as a
Yeah.
kid. And again, going back to this idea that it's like it's a movie that celebrates baseball. It's a movie about love for baseball, but it's also a movie about how baseball is kind of the handcuff as well, where like those like and those of us who love baseball and really I guess any sport, but like how sometimes you wish you didn't, like sometimes you kind of
Mm.
like as you said before, like these guys just want to go home, but it's like we're not done yet. Like we have to keep playing, like we have to play nine
Yeah.
innings, and we would regret it if we didn't. And there is little, like the EEPHUS pitch, obviously the titular EEPHUS pitch. There's one pitcher who talks about it as this sort of, it's an overly slow curveball that's meant to throw the hitter's timing off, right? The way a pitcher pitches is trying to throw a hitter's timing off of their swing, and like the EEPHUS is meant to really distract you. And he
Mm.
talks about it as this thing that kind of, in the ball's up in the air and you get bored looking at it and time kind of stops and it makes you think about other things. And that's sort of this larger metaphor for baseball. And those little things are interspersed throughout the movie, but they never get so sort of didactic where it's like, here's what the movie's about. There's no like long, for as much as I love Moneyball, there's no long Aaron Sorkin monologues about the beauty of baseball.
Right. I couldn't help but think about F this movie while I was watching it. Like if
Yeah.
the baseball game was our time
Mhm.
doing reserve seating or just being a part of the website or the podcast, and how long will it last and how are we going to feel when it's like
Over.
the last inning of F this movie? Not saying that that's in the cards anytime soon. We're not like we're not, hinting at that, but it just is this thing that is such a huge part of these guys' lives, and it's almost like they don't know how to deal with it. Like it's not something that they can. It's a memory that like we as an audience can bottle, but
Yeah.
like they can't. And when the game's over, like it's just so striking how like indifferently the whole thing is. Like the whole thing ends. Like it's almost like they need this is painful and they need this to end because like they can't bear the thought that this is the last time that they're all going to be together at this field playing ball together. And it's just such a beautiful movie. I really 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 like it a lot.
And it's funny because like you mentioned, like they couldn't imagine not being there. It's not as if these are like deep friendships either. You know what I mean?
No.
Like they're not, some of them don't seem to be friends at all. You know what I mean? They barely seem to know each other. That's what I mean. There's that idea of like coming to the field as a way to work through the stresses of the week or as a way to avoid, some,
Hmm.
preoccupations, or avoid, for some guys it's like avoid their families, things like that. But the way baseball is a cure for a lot of the things that ail us, which of course is the allure of
Yeah.
sports, hobbies, even movies. For a lot of us out there, it's kind of about putting a balm on the harsh, disgustingness of life, and we kind of find these ways to soothe it. And as you said, it's like they're all there for, like, in some ways selfish reasons and in some ways as a part of a community. And you have guys who are more into the idea of like the team, and other guys who are like they're just there to play and not to talk. And but as you said, it's so beautiful and it's so like understated in a way that, not that I think movies like this need to be authentic, but there's something about this movie that you really do feel like it speaks to the baseball fan in a way that not every movie always does.
It strikes me so much too that like there's some guys, and I'm not saying this as like a pejorative, it's just a way of describing them. They're like dull people.
Yeah.
They're just there's not a lot of interiority to them. And like this is their thing.
Mhm.
And like their thing is being taken away from
Yeah.
them. And there's a lot of unwillingness to deal with it. Like they just, it's not so there. Or there's on the other side, there's like the guy who's not even playing, but he like runs the pizza truck and
Yeah.
he has like an existential crisis. He just drives off. And I just like, I just can't, I want to underline, it's just like everybody is so different. And it's just such a fucking cool movie. Like I've never seen a movie like this before, especially a sports movie.
Mhm.
And it just when it ended, I didn't want it to end just as much as like these guys can't bear the fact that this is ending for them. And yeah, I watched it a second time and it's like it just deepens every on repeat viewing. So I can't wait to make this part of yeah, my regular baseball movie rotation. So the field that is being torn down in the movie is still
Still
operational.
there.
Like
Right.
in real life it's still there.
Right.
It was like I thought, maybe like in a year or two I'm gonna go to Boston and I'm just like, how far is it from Boston? I want
Yeah.
to go like just see this field. And yeah, I mean, like just as much as like the Field of Dreams field, this has become like canonical baseball location.
I mean, I have family nearby there, and I'm thinking like, next time I'm up there, like that's going to be on the
Yeah,
list. Like, see how
just to
far
play a
away.
game of catch there or
Yeah,
something.
big
Yeah, I
fan.
mean,
It's just so great.
it's almost a tough movie to talk about. It's just
Mhm.
such a movie that works on you in a very personal way if you're a baseball fan or like you're willing to give yourself over to a movie like this. So I would love for you guys to kind of you guys watching to kind of put words in our mouth, like tell us what you think of it.
Yeah.
Like how did it strike you or how did it affect you? Did you like it? Was it too slow for you? Like was there something about you as a baseball fan that this kind of like resonated with or tapped into? I would love to hear from other people about this one. So, on the opposite side of the spectrum, we're going to be back next week with Gripe House, our annual show about complaining.
You were too nice on this episode, a movie that we both love. So it's time, as George Carlin used to say, for a series of things that are pissing us off.
Yep, whether they be industry related, movie related, people related.
Just things Adam doesn't like about me.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for watching. We'll be back next week with Gripe House. So until next time,
Adam, after talking about this movie with you, I feel as if I am the luckiest man on the face of the earth. These seats are reserved.
your jersey ain't dirty. You ain't done nothing.